answering your HSC questions. What's your advice in picking subjects and how many units do you recommend? So the next question I got was, how do you productively study and stay motivated to do work? What was your driving force in wanting to do well? How did you keep a balance between social life and study? Is it as stressful as it seems? What is your most efficient study method? When did you start studying for the HSC? How long were your breaks? How did you manage homework and assessments simultaneously? Everyone is different. Don't compare yourself to other people. Work on what you know is going to make sure that you do your personal best, but do at the same time set yourself high goals, because there's nothing more rewarding and fulfilling than doing your best and knowing that you've done a good job and that you've tried your hardest. Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video, I'm finally doing the video that I brought up so many weeks ago, and it is the answering your HSC questions. So as you guys know, I've posted multiple videos on study tips for the HSC. I think I've got 4 videos out now, and one of my first ever videos was an HSC video, and I honestly cannot watch it back, okay, because it's just so cringy. But I get so many questions about the HSC still to this day, and every video I'm like, this is the last one, and then I come back with another one. So I made a community post about this video, so I collated those questions and I went through all the questions from my old videos and just found any like repeating questions and then put them together as well. So I'm going to be answering all of those for you today. So if you do enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. So I wanted to insert a quick explanation at the beginning of the video for those of you who haven't come across my channel before, but my name is Chantelle and I finished the HSC in 2017 with an ATAR of 99.8, and so I've posted quite a few videos about the HSC already. I haven't watched them back to make sure I don't double discuss the same stuff, because I just can't do it to myself. But if you haven't seen them, you can watch them, but I can't. The first question I got was, what subjects did you do? And I got this question so often. I did English Advanced, English Extension 1, English Extension 2, Maths, like the middle maths, the 2-unit maths, Business Studies, and Legal Studies. What's your advice in picking subjects and how many units do you recommend? So my advice for picking subjects would be pick subjects that you enjoy, because when you enjoy something, you're going to study for it and you're going to want to study for it. When you've got to study for exams and assignments for over 1 year, you want to make sure that you enjoy the content, because otherwise you're going to go out of your mind. When I went to school, a lot of the girls had pressure from parents to pick specific subjects, you know, science, extension maths, extension English, because of ranking, and I guess also like the pride of subjects. I personally just recommend doing subjects that you want to do. I know it's really hard for some people to kind of go against what their parents want. If you want to study science, that's awesome, study science, but don't just study it because you have to, because in the long term you're not going to want to study this subject versus a subject that you want to study, you're going to do well in because you do have an interest in it. I genuinely believe you just need to pick subjects you're interested in, because you're going to be doing a goddamn lot of study. So that's my recommendation. Yeah, how many units do you recommend? So school always recommends that you do 12 or 13 units. In year 11, I did 13 units, so I did ancient history as well. And then in year 12, I dropped down to 10. Oh, in year 11 I did geography too. I completely forgot. That's how much I loved it. No, I did 13 units in year 11, but then I dropped ancient history and geography and I picked up extension 2. I only did 10 units. For me, everyone is different, and some people like having that safety net, but for me personally, I knew that the back of my mind, there is always going to be one subject that I know is not going to count because I'm not as good at it or I don't enjoy it as much. So why would I waste time studying for that subject and putting in minimal effort, or not minimal effort, but less effort than I'm putting in my other subjects, when I could take all that time and that energy and put it towards subjects that will actually count for me. But again, everyone's different. Some students at school loved having that safety net in the event that they bombed one of their other subjects, but for me personally, I thought it was a waste of time and I just wanted to spend all my time focusing on the subjects that would matter. So the next question I got was, how do you productively study and stay motivated to do work? I think productive study comes from all stems from being mentally focused. You need to be in the zone. You can spend the entire day studying, but if you're not mentally focused, you're not going to absorb anything. It's just going to be a complete waste of time. So in order to be mentally really focused, even to this day with uni, sometimes I'll spend the day studying for uni or doing an assignment, but my mind is elsewhere, and so I'm not focused. Like I might be thinking of filming a YouTube video or what I need to do for work, but that whole day has been a write-off. So you need to try to eliminate all distractions, and I know it can be difficult difficult, but it is the best way to stay focused. So some of the things I did was I used to turn off my phone and give my phone to my mum or hide it in my bedroom and just not look at it all day long. Another thing I did was I downloaded this app on my laptop. I don't remember the name of it, but you could input links and it would block sites for you, and you could tell it how long you wanted to block the sites for. So I would block YouTube and Facebook for like 2 hours, and that way I was forced to study for those 2 hours. And the good thing about the app is when you're super desperate to check YouTube or Facebook, I tried to delete the app. Even when you delete it, if the 2 hours aren't up, you still can't access the apps. So like the web pages. So that's another really good tip, is just like forcing yourself to not be able to look at those sites. Obviously I use that app, but I also did eventually deactivate my Facebook and my Instagram as well. And that was really helpful in kind of like reducing distractions from school kids and all that sort of stuff. So that was really helpful for me. I would say those were the main things in eliminating those types of distractions. The lighting. Another thing about studying productively is knowing why you're doing what you're doing. So I wanted to do well and I had that goal and I wanted to rank really highly in all my subjects. So when you have those goals and you want it so badly, you just become productive because it's something you want so badly. So knowing for you what your goal is and why you want it will help you to remain productive. Another tip I have is setting to-do lists. I still to this day set to-do lists, and I actually think it's better to set more tasks than less, because when you set less tasks and deep down you know you're going to be able to get them all done, you kind of procrastinate and you take longer to do them than if you had more tasks that you knew you needed to complete. I also think rewarding yourself, you need to be able to reward yourself and give yourself the time off to incentivize that hard work, because ultimately you're not going to be able to study 24/7. So you need to congratulate yourself when you do such a good job and you study so productively for so many hours. So for example, Friday nights my family and I used to always go to dinner, or not always, but quite regularly we'd go to dinner, and that was kind of like incentive during the week to study. Or Saturday night I might watch a movie and that was incentive to study. So working out what's exciting for you and then studying really hard and using that as a reward to promote productive study. In regards to staying motivated, I also just think that once you start to see your hard work pay off, there is literally no better feeling and you just want to keep going. You ever get a really good mark and you're like, holy crap, like I am awesome, I can do this. And so then it fuels you to want to work harder and achieve that mark again. So I think it's just doing well on that in itself becoming motivation for you to continue to work really hard. I also think in regards to productive study, I never talked to friends about study, and I kind of love that I did that, because everyone's opinions, everyone's comparison can get in your head, and it can be really, I think it can be really dangerous, because you're constantly thinking, oh, this person's doing this, oh, this person's doing this, what should I do? You just need to focus on yourself. And I know it's easier said than done, but you really need to try. For example, I remember in year 12, girls in class used to talk about how they were studying till midnight, 1 a.m, 2 a.m in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're getting like 3 extra hours of study to me every night. Initially, that really overwhelmed me. I was like, oh no, I'm not doing this and they're doing this. Should I start doing this? But it's not who I am. It's not how I study. I ended up doing extremely well regardless of whether I stayed until midnight or not, which I usually didn't. But yeah, so just focusing on yourself. There is like 2 types of people in school: the kids who say that they're doing so much when they're doing nothing, and then the kids who say that they're doing nothing when they're doing so much. So you literally can't trust anyone. So don't believe them, just focus on yourself. Don't talk about what you're doing. There were also those braggers who were like, oh my god, I did 28 hours of study yesterday, when there's only like 24 hours in a day. Just ignore them. Okay, so another question that I got is, what was your driving force in wanting to do well? So for me personally, I've always loved doing well at school. Academic achievement has always been my priority throughout the entirety of high school. So it was nothing new to me in year 12. I didn't think, oh my gosh, I want to do well suddenly in school. It was always a priority. And also there's literally no better feeling than when you prove to yourself how capable you are and how much you can achieve. And it's just so incredibly rewarding and fulfilling. When I received my ATAR, I felt so proud. It's not even about the mark. It's not even about entering a course or entering into a good uni. It's just about proving to yourself that you can do it and you have the capability to learn, to succeed, and to do well. So I think that's like the main thing that it is for me. I've always wanted to do well at school, but yeah, it was just all driven from myself. A lot of kids had parents who pushed them to do well. Your parents should want you to do well. I 100% agree with that, but you're not going to be able to achieve that long term, if you're a parent watching this, like, your kid needs to want it for themselves, because ultimately that's what's going to push them through the difficulty and the stress and the anxiety, is them wanting it for themselves, not it being thrust upon them. I don't know, it's very different for me, because with my parents, maybe because they knew I wanted to do well, but they never asked me about marks, they never asked me or checked on me to see if I was studying. And I like that. Like, the moment my mum ever asked me a question, I was like, sister knows what she's doing, don't worry. So yeah, that was just me, but everyone's different. Another girl at school, I remember her mum used to have to like stand over her and make sure she was doing work, so she would get her mum to do that. So yeah, everyone's different. And I think it's important to know too that everyone has different goals. So for me personally, getting all band 6s and getting a high ATAR was a goal from the get-go, but maybe for you it's not a goal. Maybe you want to get an 80 or a 70. That is so fine. Whatever your goal is, set that for yourself and let that be the standard that you work towards, and be realistic as well. There's no point in setting an unrealistic goal, because there's nothing more demotivating than trying to work towards this super unrealistic goal and then not even getting close. But to the same token, don't discount your capabilities by restricting yourself, because I genuinely believe with literally all my heart that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to with hard work and dedication. I'll give an example here. So before year 12, I didn't really think that ranking first in my subjects was possible for me. I was always in the high classes at school, but I don't know, I just never thought it was possible. And my first year 12 business studies exam, I worked so hard and I ended up ranking first, and I did not expect that. I did not even think that was possible, and I ranked first. And it wasn't until I ranked first that I was like, holy shit, I can do this, and I can rank first in so many subjects if I just work really hard. So had I not ranked first that one time, that first time in business studies, I probably wouldn't have even set that as a goal for myself. So don't restrict yourself, set high goals for yourself, because you're gonna work harder in order to achieve them versus setting a lower goal. Had I set a goal to rank 10th in the class, well, it's going to be easy to achieve that, so I'm not going to work as hard. But if you set higher goals, you're going to work harder. So that is my personal opinion in regards to that. Yeah, I feel like I've gone in so many circles, but I hope that helps. The lighting is changing again. I hate it. I'm sorry guys, it's not me, it's the sun. I can't, it's the sun and the clouds. Okay, another question I got was, how long were your breaks and what did you do when you just could not do any more work anymore? So I also stand by the belief that you really do need to listen to your body and your mind. If you're studying and nothing is going in your head, you're making mistakes, you're so unfocused, put the pen down, leave the room, go for a walk, go to the gym, watch a TV show, watch a YouTube video. You need to allow your brain to rest, because what is that analogy where it's like a battery dies if it's not charged? I don't know, my teacher used to tell us all the time, but it's so true. You need to recharge your brain. You're not going to be able to study 24/7, and you shouldn't be expected to. Allow yourself to take those breaks. Don't expect that you need to study 24/7, because it's impossible, and it's also not healthy, and you will burn out in the long term. I mean, it's all good and well to say in 1 year you can reward yourself, but can we stick to that? Because I sure as hell can't. I need small wins, okay? The other part of the question was, how long were your breaks? And this genuinely changed so frequently, so I can't give you a rough answer, because again, I did listen to my body and my mind, although it's really hard in the moment because you feel so guilty. Like in year 12, I don't think there was anything I ever did that I didn't feel guilty for doing, and it's actually really bad. And I look back and I'm like, you should have been able to enjoy that and relax, because you deserve it. Honestly, like every day was different. Some days I'd come home from school and I did 10 units, so I had free periods during the day, so I would try to be super productive in them. But at the same time, I had friends in my free periods, so like sometimes you like to talk, but sometimes I like to do work as well. It just depends. So I'd come home from school some days, and some days I would be on YouTube for like an hour, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I better do some work. And then that was a whole hour in an afternoon, and afternoons aren't that long. So there was that. But then some days I would come home, I'd be so productive. On the weekends, I'd study all day. It really just depends. I can't really give you like fixed answer on this, but I do remember towards trials, I was so incredibly motivated. I have never studied that much in my life. Every single day of the holidays, I would wake up, go to the gym, I would study from 8 a.m. and I would be studying until like 11:30. And I remember it would be a Friday night, my family was out to dinner, I was at home studying still, and I felt like a literal queen. I was like, you're amazing. And then I would watch one YouTube video at dinner time while everyone else was out. I would watch like one 10-minute video and then go back to studying, and I was getting so much done. I was just in the zone. When you're so in that routine of studying, it just makes it easier to continue to do. Yeah, and my breaks, probably I had like in the entire day 3 breaks of 10 minutes, which is insane. But then towards the HSC, I was getting so sick of studying the same content and I was tired. I would stop at like 5 p.m. and I would watch movies because I physically couldn't work as long as I had for trials, and I was beating myself up over it. I was like, you were working so much harder before, what is wrong with you? And I was so angry at myself. I was upset at myself, but I just physically and mentally couldn't do more study. Every week is different, every day is different. Yeah, only you can tell when you're ready for a break. I guess my recommendation is, like, along with listening to your mind and your body, if you've been studying for an hour and you've been so productive and you're in the zone, don't take a break, keep going. You're in the zone already. That break might just distract you or stop you from continuing that awesome work. But to the same extent, if you've been studying for an hour and you need a break, go take a 10-minute break, go to the kitchen, eat a banana. What was the question again? I don't even know. Wow, we love going in circles, but I hope that answers that. So another question I got was, how did you keep a balance between social life and study? To be honest, I didn't really have a social life in year 12. The only people I wanted to hang out with was my family, and then when I was at school, that was like my socializing, because at the end of the day, it is like 5 days a week you get to see people. That's enough for me. School was my social life, home was my study, and I would hang out with family on the weekends, family, friends every couple of weeks, maybe like a dinner. And also a lot of my friends who weren't at my school, they were all so focused on the HSC too that we didn't see each other quite often. You know, when you don't need to see people so regularly in order to know that you're friends, I guess that's how I was in year 12. The other thing is, I live really far away from all my friends and I didn't drive in year 12, so it's not like I could just drive to them on a Saturday night. Like, it's a bit more difficult, my friends from school. So if you live close by to your friends and you want to spend Saturday night hanging out with them instead of me who was hanging out with my parents, then do that. Have that be your reward, because everyone's obviously different, but you can still balance a social life. I wasn't into going to parties and stuff in year 12. Was I? I don't know. I think I went to like one party and it was not a good time. So I was like, see ya, I don't need this. Also, I turned 18 when I finished year 12. So for me, there was no like going out in year 12. But of course you can balance it. You just have those as your incentives to have productive study, you know? One of the questions I got was, would you ever do it again? Hell no. I'm not saying that to be a negative Nancy, but you know when you put so much effort into something and you absolutely kill it and you work so incredibly hard, you don't want to do that again. Like, I've had my experience, I've moved on, I'm out of school now, so I would not do it again. But in the moment, doing it one time and having it as your first time doing it, I mean, it's bearable. But everyone's experience is different. So for some people, they loved year 12. Maybe it was the best year of their life. For me, hell no. Another question I got is it as stressful as it seems? Now, honestly, year 12 goes in waves. You're gonna have times and days at school where it's so fun and you're loving it and you're all experiencing it together, so it's great. But then you're gonna have other days where there's so much work, you've got so many assessments coming up, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed. It just goes in waves. It went really fast. I look back and I'm so grateful that I did the work because I am proud of myself. I think, yes, acknowledging that it is a stressful time, but you can definitely do it. There is waves. It's not like it's stressful every single day. There were some nights I came back from school and I was just like, ew, I don't want to study. I'm gonna live and I'm gonna watch TV. And I would watch TV. But I remember the nights before my HSC exam, to calm myself down, I would watch a David Dobrik vlog and it would make me laugh and it put me in a good mood, and then I was in a good state of mind before the exam. It's not always stressful. It is definitely stressful, but you can do it, and I promise you. Another question I got is, what is your most efficient study method, or what worked for you? So personally for me, I've kind of talked about it in my other videos, but I like to talk to myself when I study. So reading through my notes, explaining it to myself. Another thing that I do is I always do past papers. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. You need to practice. You can't just study the content and not do practice. Imagine sitting down and writing an answer for the first time in the exam. Wouldn't you much rather write an answer for the first time outside of the exam and get feedback so you know how to improve, versus just doing it in the exam. I remember when I was in younger grades, I never used to do practice questions. And I remember once my teacher was like to me, you literally have not answered the question. Like, you have just dumped information associated with this topic, but you haven't answered the question. So in year 12, you need to do those practice papers so that you can actually know to answer the question in the exam and get straight to the point. If they're asking you about A and you talk about B, well, you haven't answered the question, so you're not even going to get any marks. That's also a really effective study method. I think it's critical. Both of those are critical because you can't answer questions if you don't know the content, and if you know the content, you're not going to do as well in the exam if you haven't done practice questions. Another question I got was, how did you bounce back from a bad mark? So we all get marks in year 12 that we might be disappointed with, or we wanted to do better, or we didn't rank as well as we wanted to, and that's totally fine. Everyone experiences that, so don't beat yourself up. I think what you need to do is take that day to be sad and be disappointed in yourself, but don't let it get to you, because what you need to do is you need to use that disappointment and sadness and fuel that into productive, motivated study so that you kill the next exam. Everyone goes through it, but just use it as fuel for motivation. Another question I got was, where did you get the information to make your notes? But yeah, I got the information from the textbook and then wrote my notes from the textbook. But also, you can't just rely on the textbook. You need to do external research as well. So for example, legal studies. You need a case study for every single syllabus dot point, and you're not going to find those case studies in a textbook that was published in 2011 or something ridiculous. Okay, it was in 2011, but it's still not the most recent case studies. So you need to do external research, get your own case studies, get your own examples. Same with business studies as well. Same with English. I recommend doing a lot of critical readings. Another question I got was, did you get burnt out easily? Now, I remember before year 12 happened, as I said, I studied hard, not like super hard, obviously not as much as I did in year 12, but I studied for the entirety of my senior school life, apart from subjects like PE. I was like, sister's not gonna study for PE. And I remember I did like this some health exam and I killed it, and I was like, wow. Yeah, and I remember ever since year 7, people were always telling me, oh my gosh, don't study so hard. By the time you get to year 12, you're gonna be so burnt out. Here I am 3 years later, still studying. If you want something, you'll just keep pushing through. Like, yes, you're gonna have days where you doubt yourself and you're disappointed or you're demotivated, but those are just some days. We all experience that, push through them, and then there are gonna be other days where you're so productive, you're so motivated. I think for me, during most of year 12, I did not experience burnout until I got to the HSC, like maybe a month before the HSC, and by then I was like, when is this going to be over? I am so bored of it. Another question I got was, when did you start studying for the HSC after the trials? So after trials, I gave myself a few weeks. I remember at school there were a lot of events going on, like I think it was Relate. I really rested. I did nothing for like a few weeks, and then I started getting into it slowly. But by then you've already studied everything, so it's just about being consistent. That was my experience anyway. Wow guys, this is the last question. This is so exciting. I feel like I've been filming for so long. So another question I got was, how did you manage homework and assessments simultaneously? Now, I was a very picky student, and what I mean by that is I only did homework if I knew it was going to be helpful. Because I think we can all relate, but sometimes we get homework tasks that are just so useless and they're so time consuming, and it just becomes a waste of time. And in year 12, you don't have time to waste. So that being said, I used to do homework smart, I guess you could say. If I knew a homework task was useless but had to be done, I would rush it. So I might just do dot points, because if it was participation in class, I could just wing it in class, or I didn't do it. But of course, you still want your teachers to know you're working hard. So it comes to a point where you just kind of have to balance, because you need to manage your relationships with them, because they're the ones marking your work and they're the ones providing help. But you also need to prioritize what you know you need to do. I also think I was lucky because teachers knew that I was a hardworking student. It weighed out and it was okay. Whereas if they think that you're not working hard and you're just bludging by not doing this homework, it's not a good look. That's just the honest truth in my opinion. But yeah, I had, for example, my business studies teacher. She was amazing, and she would give us homework that was a short answer question from a past paper. So of course I would do that, because then next lesson we'd go through it and she'd give us feedback, and that's vital because you're literally doing practice questions and getting feedback for the exam. So homework tasks like that, yes, absolutely necessary, and I did them, of course. And then for example, maths, you need to do the homework, because if you don't know the basics, you're not going to be able to do the hard questions. But do really prioritize what needs to be done. I also to this day believe that you have so much time if you use your time productively. So I hope that answers that question. Usually towards assessments, like I would obviously focus on the assessment, and if the homework helped with the assessment, then yes, I do it. If it didn't, I might do it fast, all that sort of stuff. Okay guys, so those were all your questions. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're in year 12 at the moment, I'm sending you guys all my love and luck, and just know that it's not the end of the world. You just need to try your personal hardest. Everyone is different. Don't compare yourself to other people. Work on what you know is going to make sure that you do your personal best. And there are so many avenues to university, but do at the same time set yourself high goals, because there's nothing more rewarding and fulfilling than doing your best and knowing that you've done a good job and that you've tried your hardest and just outdoing yourself and your personal best. Like, that is so rewarding. At the same time, don't overwork yourself. Listen to your mind and your body. Mental health is the most important thing. It is just one mark, one exam, so be mindful of that as well. But yeah, I hope that answered all those questions. If you have any more questions for me, leave them in the comment section and I will be sure to answer them. And I'll see you guys so soon with another video. Bye.